Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to ORL Season 11, Round 12 here at the circuit Magyar Nagidic for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Once again, I am joined by Maku, and things are tightening up at the standings. Photon now leading things for his home Grand Prix.
Yeah, good evening from me too. And yeah, we have Photon driving tonight, and I think Hypers is there too. So, or is he? I think he was. I think I've read his name in the thread. But yeah, I think we will be seeing a quite nice race tonight. Because what I've read too is that over 50% of the races in Hungary were finished first by someone who wasn't on pole.
Oh, yes. And obviously at Hungary, it's somewhat a difficult track to overtake at. However, then you see the likes of Ricardo coming along, making it look easy with his famous dive bomb into turn one. But then, of course, you do often have chances of rain. Recently, we have seen a lot of wet weather at Silverstone in Germany. Probably be a little bit of a less chance here at Hungary, but that chance is there nonetheless, as well as that of a safety.
Yeah.
And
Um,
let's just run everyone through the current standings at the minute, shall we? So, as we mentioned,
yeah, sure, why not?
it is Photon who's leading the championship on 141 points, 21 ahead of Hypers, who is a further 32 ahead of Napadovsky. I had to do some really quick maths there. I was like, I don't have the difference. Quickly. Um, Formula Danny sits in fourth place, a further 17 points behind, as Lehman sits in fifth. He's been making good progress up the standings. Matthias Colligan, aka SHZ Hayes, sits in sixth with 56 points. In the seventh is Ethnic TRN on 51, as Mark on 49 points ahead of Nameless, and Hadler rounds out the top.
Yeah, and in the Constructors Championship, we have currently leading Toro Rosso with 159 points, and then followed by Mercedes, 45 points. So they will battle for the Constructors Championship title with Red Bull with 143 points, and then we have Alfa Romeo's Ferrari, Williams, McLaren in seventh, Renault Haas, and Racing Point.
I've actually got a quick question for you here, Maku, because
Yeah, sure.
ever since we started commentating together, I've been noticing it. And at the start, I've wanted to point it out, but then I realized that you're German, and you probably know far better than me, because
What?
I've always said Mercedes, but you always say like Mercedes. So
Yeah, so in Germany we pronounce the second E.
okay. I kind of
But
just want to say Mercedes now, because that actually sounds so much cooler. Anyway, just in case you guys don't remember, because not gonna lie, I kind of forgot. We've had a 2-week break since round 11, which was back at Hockenheim in Germany, and that was won by Formula Danny, who took the win ahead of Photon. Zones picked up third ahead of Napadovsky and Hayes. Hypers, though, he had a bit of an incident on that first lap, if we remember, coming out, heading into Mobile 1, got his back tagged a little bit. I'm not sure if you actually saw that incident, Maku. But Calcifer, I should have actually got that clip ready to show everyone. So back on the opening lap at Hockenheim, Napadovsky and Hypers had a coming together. And not Hypers, and Calcifer shared his perspective with me. What happened going into the right-hander after the Mercedes left-hander? Napadovsky cut across Hypers, but from Calcifer's screen, Hypers wasn't there. His car had just vanished, and then all of a sudden it just reappeared sideways coming out of the corner. So it was
what?
it was very, very strange. His car just disappeared and then appeared after the incident. So we're presuming that Napadovsky just didn't see him because of some weird game glitch, and Hypers just got caught up in an unfortunate.
Okay, that is very weird.
Yeah. But anyway, moving down the order, Wow took 7th place ahead of Paddy, who was in 8th, as Andinator took 9th ahead of Crucix, who picked up the final point. Heading into, pardon me, heading into Hungary though, 14 corners, 2.72 miles. We've already talked about how the track is tight. Turn 1, a bit of an overtaking hotspot. Where else could the drivers look for a possible move onto anyone?
Yeah, so basically I think first of all, the straight, as long as you get DRS, I think there will be a lot of overtaking maneuvers just with the straight line speed. And then maybe we'll get something in the fast corner like 4 if someone is confident enough to try with his speed to go through that corner. And yeah, well, on the other corners, I don't think that maybe in 5, but the others are very tight. Basically, Hungary is not that good for overtaking. But still, I think we will have a very interesting race to see.
Well, pretty much everyone is in the lobby now,
Wait.
so just...
Wait.
Sorry, what's that?
Why do you echo? I don't...
I can't hear it, so...
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with, hopefully it's alright.
Oh, wait.
Do you have the YouTube link open currently?
No, that is on my other PC, but I think you're speaking in the game.
Oh,
You're... Yeah,
mute
yes,
me.
no. Yeah, that's what I've done.
Oh, why does the game do this? Mute all.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can mute all, but I can't mute myself.
Yeah, there you have to go to the settings, I think, and then you have to enable push to talk, because
Which I don't
else
wanna
you're
do.
always talking.
Okay, well, if any of the drivers can hear me, please mute me, because otherwise I'm going to be screaming while they're racing, just like when the 5 red lights are about to go out, they're just going to hear me saying, and it's lights out, and away we go. But anyway, going back to the drivers that are racing today, we have Calcifer, we have Hypers, we have Triton Lehman, Zones, who took 3rd place last time out, is here, as well as Kaboom, Thoron, and Mark is also returning. It doesn't look like Photon is here yet, but I do think he's racing. Nevertheless, though, will be good to see Mark back in. He's had a couple of unfortunate races so far this season, currently sitting down in 8th place in the...
So Photon and Hypers are both here today, or
Photon
should
is...
be. Photon said he will come.
Yeah, he's at the top. I hadn't gone all the way up. I went up enough to see Hypers, but yeah.
He's hosting the session.
He is hosting the session. See, there you go.
As
Because it's at
leader
Hungary.
of... Yeah, of course.
Leading the championship, Hungarian driver, Hungarian Grand Prix. He should,
He should host now, yeah.
Perfect. So we have our 2 championship rivals then taking each other on. Of course, though, when we think about Hypers, he's had quite a few incidents as of late.
Had he?
Yeah, so
I can't really... That's...
There was a one at Hockenheim, which was lap 1. Then there was, I think, the British Grand Prix racing. No, he could race in that, but... So the British Grand Prix was a race where it went from intermediates full wet. But some of the drivers went on to full wets.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it went, the conditions changed. Some drivers changed tyres with it, and other drivers stayed on the intermediates all the way to the end. Those drivers did better, and Hypers was one of the drivers who did switch tyres. And then go a race back before that, France. Hypers leading the race, came out of the pits in that massive gaggle of cars, got hit coming out of turn 2, and ended off going into Narnia and retiring from the set.
Ah, no.
Because I remember that one, because we were hyping it up, because it was Hypers and Napadovsky, they were battling quite hard, as was Triton Lehman, I believe. So it was a very, very close race.
But Hypers finished in France.
No, he retired. He rage quit, I believe, which is why he got a grid penalty for Silverstone.
But in the championship standings, there he is
Oh, maybe he did
actually
finish.
as 13th. He has never retired us
Oh.
after the our Google documents.
Yes. For if anyone does want those details to the documents, to see championship standings and all of that, you can see down below in the YouTube descriptions the links to myself, Makus, and the official ORL Twitter is there, as well as how you can join the ORL season. We have a split A and a split B. We were commentating on the split B and
Hey,
the previous 2 weeks. Yeah, we're commentating on split A right now, but we were
yeah.
over the last 2 weeks commentating on split B. So it's a good way to get some practice in and maybe try your luck to push for a split. Right, I'm just trying to think what other final points we can bring up before we do head over into a qualifying session here. I know. Toro Rosso, Mercedes, and Red Bull. 16 points separating the top 3 constructors teams. Toro Rosso, Calcifer, and Photon, they are both here. Mercedes, Hypers, and Zones are both here. Actually, I'm just going to double check that Zones is an official driver. No, he's not. So it is just Hypers. And then for Red Bull, it is normally Napadovsky and Hayes, but neither of them are racing today. So this is a straight up battle between Toro Rosso and Mercedes, and is going to be between Hypers and Photon, and Calcifer might be battling for those final couple of points. So it's going to be a close battle to see who comes out on top.
Yeah. And you just need to enter the spectator mode because you want to drive right now. Yeah.
Okay, I'm in spectator. I must have pressed escape or something. Right. However, with all that said and done, the drivers are getting ready to go into the race. But we were talking about, how we could get customized to the track and all of that. Who better to take us through a lap of the Hungarian GP other than our Season 10 Hungarian GP winner and the driver who recently won 2 of his last esports official F1 races. Formula Danny, and he's going to take us through a quick lap here at the circuit in Magyar Negidic.
Hello guys, it is Danny here, and today we are at the Hungaroring because I want to show you around my home track. We prepared the last corner very wide because we need an amazing exit to start a lap and gain time on the main straight and on the longest straight of the track. Arriving to the first turn, we brake at about 75 meters very late, an early apex, but preparing for the acceleration, straightening up the wheel as soon as possible to carry a great momentum through this section, keeping it very tight through to turn 2, but letting it wide at the exit to carry absolutely maximum speed on this uphill section. Mensa is the next turn. We need to cut as much as we can, but we don't see the corner, so it's very hard. Don't meet the apex here because you lose a lot of time on the outside. The chicane, it's all about keeping the car very stable. A soft suspension is very good for that. In this left-right combination, you just have to hit the curbs perfectly to turn in the car and have an amazing exit through this section. It's all about the rotation and stability, and it's also very easy to warm up your tires. Starting with third sector, it's a big braking, but we mustn't lose any momentum because we need to carry the momentum through all of the corners, and that's the key for a successful lap here. The last turn, we just keep it very tight with an early apex and keeping it down the inside to have an amazing exit and cross the straight line, and that's a great lap around the Hungaroring.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And for a second there, I thought that my F1 game had decided it didn't want to work. But it is working, and we already have drivers out on the track. We are 1 minute into qualifying. Maku, who do you think we should ride on board with?
Oh well, there are lots of people outside, so I think the fastest laps come in at the end. So let's take a look at some other than the first two. For example, why don't sit on board with?
Right, for some reason I can't hear any volume, and I don't think our
Again,
beautiful viewers can either. Now, I have no idea why, but I'm gonna have to quickly tab out and sort that one out. Very
yeah, sure.
strange. Okay. I think it's working. I might just have to turn it up a little bit more. However, take us. Just trying to think. Sorry. Do apologize, guys, for this minor. Why everything wants to be quiet. There's always something, isn't there, Maku?
Nobody wants to talk with you, not even the game.
Wait, pardon? Yeah, so it's not me, it's the F1 game. I don't know, can you hear engine sound?
Yeah, in my game, I can hear. And or do you mean in the stream?
On the game,
Yeah.
because for me it just doesn't want to work. It's
No,
really
R7
confusing.
just wrote that there's no game sound on the stream.
Yeah, I know. Hence why I'm looking at the volume mixer. There is yeah, like I've checked everything, so I'm sure the volume will just come back. It's just standard Bugmasters just doing Bugmaster things. However, Ballast
Yeah.
Kevin has already set the fast lap, and let's not waste any more time trying to fix volume settings. So let's just get straight down to racing. Hypers and Photon, they're still in the pit, so let's get on board with Soren. Actually, he's coming around the final couple of corners, and he's going to be one to watch.
Yeah, sure. We have momentarily nearly all the drivers. Yeah, all the drivers out on track are on hard tires.
Yep.
So either they're going a different strategy than the others, or they're just doing another practice lap in the qualifying session.
And we were talking about before how Hypers had posted on Twitter how he is now top of the global leaderboards for time trial here at Hungary. 14-0 is what he said. But as you mentioned, a lot of the drivers won't be setting their laps on the soft tires, and of course, they will most likely be using race setup. So we were saying that if anyone is on the soft tires and can get into the 14s or 9, that'd be very quick. But if drivers do go for those mediums or the hards, I guess getting a high 14 would be a decent, a high 15 would still be quite a reasonable lap time.
Yeah. Now every tire switched to the hard one, so I think they're all going nearly the same strategy. We're not going to see a 114 like we thought about we may have.
Right, and I'm looking at Triton Lehman right now. He's been doing well in the championship lately, picking up quite a few podiums. Hasn't been able to get a win just yet, but he'll come across the line with a 17.1 and straight onto the top spot, but less than a tenth separating the top three.
Lehman and I think his teammate Matches, they together, but no, they hadn't have a win. But Lehman had 2 second places.
Oh yes, yeah. And
But with the Williams stream, they went through half of the leaderboard in the constructors championship. They went 6th or 5th, I think.
And as you mentioned, yeah, Triton Matthias, he is taking part today, but he had a bit of an issue with his F1 game, so he has to reinstall it. So hopefully he should be able to make it back into the lobby for the final couple of minutes of qualifying, or at least start from the back of the grid for the race itself. as Zones peels into the pits. Who sit on board with? They sit on board with Mark. He's coming around the final corner, still on those hard tires. Everyone deciding to go for the hardest of the three compounds. The 34, that is just his outlap, but here we go. Starting off his hot lap, brakes nice and late in turn one. A little bit of a curve and feed the power back in as he makes his way down the hill into turn two. And as Formula Danny says, you want to stay off the curb. A bit of an auto curb. Mark almost kisses it as he makes his way now up the hill towards the dreaded and blind turn four. Throws the car in, stays in sixth gear, and now hug the apex nice and tight as Hyper sets new fastest lap of the session at 60.37 tenths up on Ballast Kevin and Triton Lehman. But we're still focusing on Mark as he makes his way into the left-right chicane of 8 and 9, oh sorry, of 6 and 7, and now into 8 and 9, much faster, no brakes needed, just a little lift. Now as he makes his way down the hill into turn 11, just be nice and patient on the throttle. Makes his way up into 14 and into the final couple of corners now. 13 back on the power. Now look for the run through 14. Actually, he's going to take a very wide line. So actually, this is his hot lap that is now starting. Taking 2 laps to warm up the tires. So that lap is a 118. And it won't be enough to improve him. But he is on his hot lap now.
But his tires still are already 4 laps old. Well, I think the hard tires always take a little bit of more warm up than the soft, so I think you should go 1 lap and then for the hot lap.
And Hypers is already into the pits. Now, I want to sit on board with Calcifer. He's making his way into Sector 2 now, or he's midway through Sector 2. And we've seen, like, time and time again, Calcifer and Photon very close on pace in qualifying, but once the race comes around, Photon just seems to have everything a little bit better set up.
Yeah, but those two have not set a lap until now, after nearly half of the qualifying is over.
Only 9 minutes remaining of the session as Calcifer comes to the final corner. Up into 5th gear. What is it going to be? It's not looking terribly fast, but it's 17-0. So it will be enough to take a 3rd place. He slots himself in between Ballast Kevin and Lehman as Mark goes 2nd in the Ferrari. 6 tenths down on Hypers. Nobody getting close to the lap time from the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, he is leading the global leaderboard.
Yeah, he's been putting a bit of practice in. Yeah, I've been looking a little bit at Hyper's Twitter. He's been in a bit of a bad spot recently. He's been having a lot of issues in all the racing leagues he's taking part in, whether that's incidents or whatever. So let's hope for his sake he can get a nice strong bounce back here for round 12 of ORL season 7 as Mr. Anchor comes to the final couple of corners now. Zones well out of the way, but Mr. Anchor through the final corner he goes. What's it going to be? It's looking decent at the minute. It's a 17-4, only enough for 8th place. Photon though is on an outlap, as is Soren. Soren looks like he's on a hot lap right now, so let's see what he can do, because the current time that he has is definitely not representative as he flies out so wide through 11. Now down into 12, trying to put the power down, losing the back end all the way through. Now into turns at 13. Power back on. Will he come into the pits? Yes, he will. So once again, not happy with his lap time.
Yeah. Corner 13 can also be sometimes a little bit nasty.
As well, Photon starting his hot lap. First lap of the session as he makes his way down into turn 2. He touches that big concrete curb, but not enough to spin him around as he makes his way up the hill into the very blind turn 4. Uses as much entry curb as he can, and now into 5. Run wide, tries to hug it nice and tight. Formula Danny emphasized during his track guide. Turns 6 and 7. Now into 8 and 9. Just try to get the car set up so you can get the best of runs. Flat out through turn 10. Bit of a lift. Just a dab on the brakes into 11. Now down the hill we go into turn 12. Take as much curb as you can. Open up steering. And now down into the tricky turn 13. Have to be patient on the throttle. Uses up all of the pit entry road. And now into the final corner. Looking like an okay lap so far. Is he setting himself up for a second lap? I don't think so. What's it going to be? It's a 16.6. It's enough for second place, but it's not enough to take a pole from Hypers. Not yet. Anyway.
And with that, we've now 5 people in the 16th. There already have a lot of people with
Look at
the
Hypers,
medium
though.
tire fitted.
Hypers is coming to set a new personal
Yeah.
best. And there we go. A 15.4 on the medium tires. We said anyone who could get into the 14s would be, pardon me, would be quick if they did that on the soft tires. But only medium tires getting used by Hypers. So that is a very, very quick lap. A gap
And I
of
think
1 second.
if he had in this lap had soft tires equipped, he would have went into the 114s.
Ballas Kevin is on an outlap. He's got a set of medium tires on the car. Hypers is the only one so far to have completed a lap on those medium compounds, but I think everyone going out now just looking if they can find a good lap with the softer of those two compounds. So Ballas Kevin coming through the final couple of corners to start his hot lap. Hypers, I'm sure, will be coming into this. Maybe put on a new set of boots as well. Don't forget, guys, if you are enjoying ORL and enjoying the stream, don't forget to hit us up with a like and subscribe. Actually, I say that, but this is my YouTube channel. We should be back to streaming on the official ORL channel at some point soon. Probably in 2 time. Unfortunately, there's been an issue and YouTube suspended the account for a short while. So it should be back and we can go back to getting our usual numbers of 20 to 30 viewers. But if you are enjoying everything, don't forget to also hit us up on Twitter with a like, follow us on Twitter and get all the information about when we're going live and the results for Bit A and Bit B. Ballas Kevin, though, making his way towards the end of Sector 2. Looking like an okay lap so far. He's currently sitting at 5th place in the standings. If he can find half a second, and Hyper's found more than half a second between the two compounds of tires, he can jump right up the orders. He's already 4/10 up as he makes his way out of Sector 2 into the final couple of corners. Looking to pick up second, but of course, he is on the medium tires, whereas everyone else has set their time on the harder compounds. Ballas Kevin gets a good run out of the final corner. Here we go. What's it going to be? It's a 16, a 4, and he's just barely within a second of Velocity Hypers. However, Triton, Lehman, and Zones is about to start a hot lap. Mr. Anchor is on a lap as well, but he is well off the pace. Zone starts his lap, but let's sit on board with Lehman. Actually, Lehman has backed out of it.
Yeah, Wow is just finishing his hot lap. I think he's just going to corner 14, the last corner, back on the
slow,
straight.
though.
And let's see. Yeah, 120 is.
He might be setting himself up for a hot lap now. Maybe because we do see drivers with the hard tires, take laps to warm those tires up. Maybe Wow going for a thing.
I think even somebody took like 3 or even 4 laps to warm the tires up.
I think that was Mark, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was very long out.
Yeah, actually, Camille Comon, who is a new driver to ORL, he's up into 2nd place already in the Renault, so he's having a good debut to ORL. Jones is backing out of the lap as well. I'm pretty sure he's about to start a hot lap, but Mr. Anker, he's 2/10 up as he makes his way into the third and final sector. Uses up as much curb as he can in 12. This might be enough to get him into 10th, 11th place, but a little bit off the pace right now. Sauron retires from the session, so not quite. Okay, he completed his lap. He's in second place. But Mr. Anchor, what's it going to be? A 16.5. He jumps up into 5th place. And there's quite a clear division at the minute between the drivers on the mediums and the drivers on the soft tyres. As here comes Camille Camon to start his, what I believe is his third lap on the set of tyres. Right, who can we ride on board with? Let's go with Photon. Triton Lehman moves up into second, half a second down on Hypers. But here is a man we want to watch. Current championship leader, Photon. He used to be the Velocity Academy driver. That spot got taken off him from Hypers. So there's a bit more to this rivalry between these two. Photon across the line. It's a 15-6. But it's not quite enough. A 2/10 down on Velocity Hypers. As actually, let's go down the order. Calcifer is on a hot lap. He is 2/10 up at the minute through Sector 1. He might be able to get into, you know, almost the top 6, top 5. But what is it going to be? 6/10 up through Sector 2. So he's right on the bubble of that 7th, 8th spot. Bit of a moment out of 12 and now into 13. Has to keep it all nice and tidy back onto the power. Now the final corner. He has still got a little bit of ERS to deploy, but yeah, can't decide that one. Across the line he goes. It's a 16.4, but the lap is not invalidated, but it's only enough for 10th place. As Hypers sets a 1:15.1. He says to everyone, did you think you were close? Did you think you had a chance against me? No, you didn't.
Well, then he could definitely do a 114 with soft.
I think so.
151 mediums is.
That is insanely quick.
The funny thing is, I think no one worldwide can really beat that one.
Yeah, not even on softs.
Yeah.
I want to know what kind of position that would get him on the leaderboard. Just a 15-1. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't need soft tires for global leaderboards. I just want to use my medium.
Oh, what the hell is going on?
I don't know. However, the qualifying results are Hypers that takes pole ahead of Photon by almost half a second. 3/10 down is Triton Lehman in third. Andinated takes fourth as Mark returning to ORL after a bit of a break. He's in fifth. Sauron in the Racing Point takes sixth ahead of Camille Common on his ORL debut down in 7th place. Zones takes 8th after a podium last time out at Hockenheim. Alice Kevin takes 9th ahead of Calcifer in 10th. 6 lines up in 11th ahead of Wow. Mr. Ranker in the second of the Ferraris is in 13th with Kopi in 14th. Get Owned in 15th and Kaboom in 16th as my game sound has returned.
Wow.
Yeah, this is when it returned, so there was just an issue with the game. However, with all that said and done, well, there it is if anyone just wants to see the exact times from each of the specific drivers. Let's get a prediction from you then, Maku. Who do you think is going to take this race? Actually, I want to know your full prediction on the podium.
Your full prediction on the whole race.
Yeah, every single driver.
And every incident and everything. So basically, I think Hypers is really good prepared for this track. So I think he can hold pole, even though it's not that often in history. I think Foden can make second, but I think I don't know if Lehman maybe has a possibility in the race to pass, because he's shown before that he can go for the second place.
That said and done, we're going to be taking a short break, but we will be right back with the action from the race. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, wait, no, I'm not supposed to do that then. I always have to remember when I have to go for the highlights video. However, looks like we are ready to get going. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to ORL Season 11, Round 12 from the circuit of Magyar Nagydic here at Hungary. Lining up on pole is Velocity Hypers ahead of Toro Rosso driver and a current man leading the championship. It's the Hungarian Mr. Photon. Triton Lehman takes third in the Williams ahead of Andinator, and Mark Soren lines up in 6th ahead of Camille Common for his debut race in ORL. Stones takes 8th after taking 3rd last time out at Hockenheim. Ballas Kevin lines up in 9th as Calcifer completes the top 10 in the second of the Toro Rossos. Krusix lines up in 11th ahead of Wow and Mr. Anker as Kobe takes 14th, while the Red Bull pair of Get Owned and Kaboom round out the grid. The driver standings, the Photon currently leads on 141 points, 21 ahead of Hypers. Napadovsky is in 3rd ahead of Danny and Aleman as Kologon and Etnik take 6th and 7th. Mark starts in 8th as Nameless and Hadler round out the top 10.
And in the Constructors' Championship, we have Scuria Toro Rosso leading with 159 points. After them, directly followed by Mercedes and Red Bull with 145 and 143 points, really close together. Then we have the Alfa Romeo Racing Team, Ferrari, Williams on 6th, followed by McLaren, and Renault, Haas, and Racing Point are at the back.
Everyone starting in the top 10 is on medium tyres. Everyone outside of the top 10, with the exception of Get Owned, is on the hard tyres. So let's keep an eye out for Get Owned. He should be on a little bit of a charge through the grid in the Red Bull. All the drivers line up on the grid. It looks like we are ready to go. 35 laps at this 2.72 mile circuit. 14 corners of Hungarian tarmac. Velocity Hypers lines up on the front row of the grid alongside Photon, but it's lights out and away we go. It looks like it's a very good start from the Haas of Andinator, as here we go into turn 1. The Hypers will go defensive, but look at Lehman. He's looking for the inside into turn 1. Can he get the drive? No, he can't, but it's going to be Mark moving up into 4th place as Photon looking for the inside onto Hypers into turn 2. Mark's looking quite racy as well. Photon won't be able to make the move work as that's a Racing Point going very wide in this contact down the track. Get Owned will come into contact as Soren drops down the order as well. I'm not quite sure who he came into contact with. I think it might have been Calcifer, and we're not sure what happened to Get Owned as well because he wasn't directly involved in that incident. However, Hyper still leads from Photon, Lehman and Mark.
Yeah, I think those two who we saw touching weren't the two with the incident, because obviously the incident happened at the back.
I think it was with Calcifer, and
yeah.
I swear every race Calcifer seems to be coming in the pits at the end of the first lap for a front wing change, and I think, is that someone in the pits already? No, it's not. As we come across the line for the first time of the Grand Prix, let's just take a look at who our big movers are.
So basically, in the positive way, we have Kaboom moving 6th place and Krusix and Stones who move 2 places up. And the kind of losers of the starting phase were Soren with 6 places down, and now it's Andinator because I think he pitted maybe or something. Or no, he just jumped through my
Soren's retired from the
leaderboard.
session as well now.
Oh, yeah, I think he was the one crashing. He lost his front wing, but I don't know why he retired. Oh, so he left the session.
Soren definitely came into contact. Now, Calcifer, Mr. Anker, and Kopi all peeled into the pits. I think Calcifer was the highest of the 3 of them and most likely to have got tangled up with Soren, but I'm not quite sure who it was because it was coming out of turn 3. definitely will be able to see when the highlights video as Andinator is back up into 5th. So I'm not quite sure why it dropped him down the order, but
Yeah.
there's a bit of a train leading from Hypers down to Zones, as Zones has broken that 1 second gap to Camille Common.
Yeah, and as soon as I think the RS has just been opened, right? Yeah. So next lap we will see some wings opening on the first straight and the second short straight.
Camille Common getting hunted down by Ballast Kevin right now, as our timing screen seems to want to be just messing around with us
Pretty
in terms
funny.
of Andinator. Apparently he's a lap down and in
Yeah.
5th, but Ballast
Yeah,
Kevin.
sure.
But as we mentioned, you know, there's only one real overtaking spot, which is into turn 1. You can also look for the move into turn 2 and maybe up the hill, but it all has to start through that final sector and getting that run out of the final corner.
Yeah. Because in every else corner, you kind of need to be Max Verstappen or something to make your overtakes work.
However, we're starting to see the front two pull away from the field. Hyper's dragging Photon along, who does have DRS. Britain Lehman has DRS as well, as Hyper's tries to break the toe from Photon. Lehman, though, he's right on the cusp of falling out of that DRS range, and Mark and Andinator still staying in touch, as is Zones, but Camille Common falling down, or falling back, falling off this at 6th place. Let's take a look at Mr. Anchor, because Mr. Anchor is very close to Kopi, as Hypers picks up his first time penalty of the race. But let's keep an eye on Mr. Anchor. He's got the DRS, looking for the move onto Kopi. Down the start-finish straight, Kopi will go defensive. Wow has picked up a 3-second time penalty as well, but Mr. Anchor round the outside should get the better traction, and he will make the move stick. There's a yellow flag in sectors 1, 2, and 3. There's yellow flags everywhere, Maku. But look at this, Triton Lehman is now outside of the 1 second zone from Photon, so the top two have well and truly broken away. And Lehman, without DRS of his own, is going to be struggling a little bit more under the pressure from Mark.
But Mark isn't opening his front wing, and he is inside the 1 second window.
Maybe it's a glitch in the game?
Or that one.
I know there was a thing back in the F1 esports that I can't remember if it was Monza or Spa. Formula Danny didn't want to be leading going into the final lap, but he just wasn't overtaking. Like, he would refuse to overtake the guy ahead so that he was in second place in the better position for the final lap of the race. It was some very entertaining tactics. Kaboom picks up a 3-second time penalty as well. We are only 5 laps into the Grand Prix. We've already had 2 retirements, 3 pit stops, and now 3 time penalties as well.
No, you forgot Calcifer one.
Oh, Calcifer got one as well.
Yeah, for the severe incident with Get Owned.
And Kevin picks up one as well. So wait, so Calcifer came together with Get Owned, and someone else came together with Sauron.
Yeah, that's what the game said.
Alright.
Whoa.
So many penalties here for round 12. But Mark is close to Lehman. Kaboom has just found his way through, but Mark very close to Lehman. Will he go for a look? Gets very close to the back end as Ballast Kevin retires from the session. Let's just take a look. Has he ended up in a wall or anything? We're riding on board with Mr. Anchor now. And you'd think if there's an incident...
We had already 2 time penalties for speeding in the pit lane for Soren and Mr. Anchor.
For Sauron and Calcifer.
No, for Soren and Mr. Anchor for speeding in the pit lane.
But their races have gotten from bad to worse after the incidents on the opening lap. Mr. Anchor in 11th now after jumping ahead of Ballast Kevin. We still don't quite know what happened there, but we have this four-way battle for third place. Hypers stretching out that lead over Photon, but Photon just about staying within that 1 second DRS zone. Oh, as Andinator drifts wide, and Zone's going to have a little look. He's just not going to be able to get the drive. Should be able to get a nice late apex through the final corner. Let's take a look at the drive. It's looking good. He's got the DRS right on the tail now as we enter lap 7 of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Andinator goes defensive. Zones round the outside. Can he hold it? Andinator will squeeze Zones, but Zones is going to have DRS for the second straight. So does Andinator. Zones down the inside as Andinator once again looking to hold it round the outside, but he's now got the inside into turn 3 as that is Zones going wide, but still side by side. And Zones will let Andinator take the position as they head into turn 4.
That was beautiful racing. They weren't touching one time.
And I think either Zones running wide out of turn 3 decided, okay, I'm not going to take this position, or just decided better than to try to run side by side into turn 4, which can always lead to disaster.
You have to be very sure to do that.
Mr. Anchor's in the pits, and Mr. Anchor retires, so I have a couple of potential rage quits here. Obviously, though, we don't know the exact circumstances of the drivers as Zones.
Oh.
Massive moment with the back end through turn 12. Those medium tires, they have to go a lot longer. We'll have to see whether drivers want to switch to the hard tires or the softs. They want to go for the hards. They'd probably be looking to pit around about that lap 15 to 17 mark. Let's take a look up ahead because Mark's still very close to Lehman, and after Zones and Andinator battling together means that Andinator no longer has DRS from Mark, which means we now have 2 separate two-way battles, one for third and one for fifth, as Camille Comon has closed back up to Zones and Andinator after their squabble on lap 7.
Yeah, and Photon and Hypers have already nearly 4 seconds on Lehman, so they're really starting to do their own race.
And as well, Hypers has stretched out a 1.3 second lead to Photon, so no DRS anymore from Photon, so Hypers should be able just to pull away further Photon now, and maybe even look for a 2-stop strategy, but we'll have to wait and see as Hypers sets a new fast lap of the race of a 1:19.5. The only real battle so far is Mark and Lehman. The battle for 5th, everyone just seems a little bit too spread out. Andinator, he's almost back within that 1 second DRS range of Mark here.
Yeah. And Photon is slipping out of this 1 second window. Nah.
Oh, yeah, he's got back in.
Yeah.
Right on the cusp as Lehman a little bit wide into turn 5. Will allow Mark to close right up, but into, I guess, what could be said more as a high downforce part of the track. You don't really want to be running in the dirty air, and Mark just falling back from Lehman already. The gap back up to half a second as Andinator back within a second of Mark now, so they'll be looking to close right back up on the start-finish straight. But Mark very close to Lehman heading into the final sector. It's all about getting the drives through turn 12 and 13. Is the drive good enough? Mark is only 3/10 down, so he might be close enough to have a look into turn 1. Here we go. Mark is close. Oh, he has a little look, but he decides against it. Mark will hold on to 4th for now, and doesn't get the drive either to have a look into turn 2 either. Photon though, still at 1.2 seconds down on Hypers as Mark picks up his first time penalty of the race. Lehman hasn't picked up a time penalty yet. Zones has a bit of a moment coming through turn 5 in 7. They go ride as much curb as he can. Zones closing in onto Andinator, who's in turn closing in onto Mark, who is much closer to Lehman this time round through sector 2. Here we go into turn 11. Sorry, turn 12, pardon me. He is close to Lehman into turn 13. Can he get the drive? Lehman once again just looks like he's a little bit too far away as Kopi picks up his second time penalty of the race. Now Mark, 3/10 behind Lehman once again. Both in Motor 4 on ERS. This time Mark will have a look. This time Mark will go down the inside into turn 1. Lehman forced to open up the steering a little bit, but he will get the drive. Mark, he still has a DRS. He can't make his way through into turn 2. He should be able to get the cutback. Maybe he can have a good run going up the hill. Loses the back end slightly, but he's just far back.
By the way, at the moment, Photon would actually be winning the race. Well, that can change, but as Hypers has a time penalty and Photon does not, yeah, as long as Photon is keeping his driving safe and clean, he can stay, I think, in a 3-second window behind Hypers and still winning the race.
Yeah, Hypers picked up a 3-second time penalty in those opening couple of laps, and Photon 1.1 seconds down, so he's staying in touch with Hypers by no longer having that. DRS's, I thought Lehman had a bit of a four-wheel drift, and just get the feeling that those tires starting to wear out for Lehman here. Here we go though, Mark once again close, but not quite close enough. Gets a decent run, but Lehman gets just that slightly better run, and Mark once again will have to settle for 4th place. Lap 12 of 35, and this 5-way group now used to be a 4-way group, now 5-way group for 3rd place as once again emerge. Lehman and Mark heading that off. Oh, a bit of contact. Lehman and Mark have a bit of a coming together. Mark, I think, slightly caught out by Lehman, maybe braking a little bit earlier than Mark expected. Hopefully that hasn't caused any damage to his front wing.
Yeah. And Camille Coman is now also closing into those 4 battling drivers. I think he was over a second away a few laps ago, and now he's into the DRS range.
Also, we can't underestimate the likes of Crucix and Kaboom, because they did start on those hard compound of tires, and they're about 4 seconds down as Lehman dives into the pits at the last second. This will free up Mark. Oh yes, Zones as well into the pits, but Mark and Andinator, Zones and Lehman. We'll have to see how this all pans out. Will Mark and Andinator react? Will they bite the bait and pit this lap? They'd have to do 23 laps on the hard tires, and you have to think that maybe Zones and Lehman going for the 2-stop strategy here.
Yeah, maybe. Let's look what they're putting in the hard. So basically, I don't think you would put on the hards if you would do a 2-stop strategy.
You probably want to go, what, medium softs?
Yeah, or if you are sure about this, you can go medium soft, but then I would go a few laps later. And Kopi retired. Oh, what happened
let's
there?
just ride on board with Calcifer. The yellow flag's in sector 3, and we see Kopi's car. Kopi's retired in the pits, so
yeah.
I'm not quite sure what's happened to Kopi, but it doesn't look good nonetheless. However,
and Hypers is pitting.
Hypers is pitting. Crucix has picked up another time penalty as Andinator into the pits. Now, this is the one we have to watch out for. Where will he come out relative to Zones and Lehman? And don't forget, these guys are going to be coming out very close to wow as well, and that could be seeing them getting held up. We go, Andinator will come out ahead of Camille. Come on, but it is very, very close. Here we go, Andinator out of the pits, and it is behind Lehman, but it is ahead of Zones, and actually Camille jumps ahead of Zones. Actually, they're side by side coming out through turn 2, and sorry, through turn 1 and into turn 2. Camille, come on the outside. Slightly colder tires though on the outside into turn 3. Zones will make it work. Absolutely class driving from Zones to reclaim 9th place.
Yeah, but I think Camille just let go a little bit because I think they would have a little bit touched.
Yes, very possible, as Photon will come into the pits now. The earlier pit stop didn't quite work out for Zone. He didn't get back past Camille, but let's see if Photon can do any better. He was about 1.1 seconds down on Hypers when Hypers made his stop. Photon slaps on a set of hard tires. Here we go. Out of the pits comes a Photon. Where is Hypers? Hypers is already into turn 1. That's now a 2.5 second gap between second and third. First and second though, as Kevin has left the session, so
yeah,
he must have just been spectating for a bit. But Mark comes out of the pits and he is behind Lehman once again. So the early stop hasn't worked for Lehman, but maybe heading into those final few laps of the race, that tire wear may start to bite Lehman in the rear.
With everyone on mediums, I think we have the strategy done for nearly everybody, except there will be some collisions, or someone has overestimated his own tire wear or underestimated. Then some people will go to the pits again.
4 drivers left that started on the hard compound. 6, Boom, Wow, and Calcifer. But actually, Calcifer started on the softs, but he had to pit at the end of a lap of 1 as Hyper sets a new fast lap of the race. But actually, let's just take a look at Andinator. No, never mind, not quite close enough to mark, as Hyper just gets past Crew 6. Guessing that was coming out of turn 3. But that being said and done, Calcifer is not in the best of places right now. He's 38 seconds down on 10th place. And he still has a pit stop to make as Andinator has a big moment. And that almost allows Zones to find a way through. But look at Camille, come on, he should get a good run out of turn 3. It's not quite enough. He's going to have to slot in behind Zones as they come over the crest and into sector 2. Lehman seemingly making these hard tires work better than he was able to make the soft tires work, as Andinator picks up his second time penalty. Now, very close to Zones and Andinator. Andinator is almost within that 1 second gap to a mark. He hasn't made it in as Hyper sets a new fast lap, another 119, but a 119 flat. This time as one just touches that undulation in the curb. But this is the battle that is essentially for third place. Tritton Lehman was third before the pit stops. However, after Crew 6 pits, he could be in a great position to battle with these guys for that final podium spot. As well, picks up another time penalty. Zone's getting close to Andinator's mark. Finding his pace once again and closing back up to Lehman. You have to think though, Maku, that nothing's really going to happen unless we see someone actually make a mistake, and that's one of the
Yeah.
issues here at Hungary. Is very, very difficult to find a way past unless you have a significant advantage in tire.
Yeah.
Another fast
That's why
lap.
I think that the track is called the Monaco without buildings. Because it's actually sometimes really tight, especially in, I think, about corners 8, 9, 10 something. And you don't have really much overtaking possibilities. But in my opinion, it is still a better track than Monaco.
Oh yes, for sure. However, the battle for 4th place is starting to heat up. Kaboom and Wow getting closed down by Triton Lehman. And the harder tyre runners have now done 17 laps. And they could look to pit within the next couple as Lehman gets so close to Wow. He's going to look for the inside into turn 8. There's contact. That's really going to cost Lehman. And Mark closes right up. And now Lehman just potentially getting a little bit too overzealous heading into, as you mentioned, the very, very tight second sector. Is it possible to stream this in 1080 next time? There should be an option to put it into 1080 as Kaboom dives into the pits, as does Wow. Both of them into the pits on a lap 19. Now, we saw the medium tyre runners struggle take their tyres to the 17 lap mark, pitting at around about lap 14, lap 15. Do we think it's going to be different for the likes of Wow and Kaboom here?
What do you mean, because of changing tire, because of...
Well, the medium tyre runners who took the mediums in the first spin in could only do about 14 laps. Wow and Kaboom have 17 laps to do as Zones picks up a 3-second time penalty. But yeah, do you think these tyres will be able to last?
Well, the other ones had the start on those tires, and I think some of them even had the qualifying lap was on those tires. So I think they all can put 15 laps on these tires, but then I will think they get the same results as the other ones did in the first stint.
Right, and I have done something a little bit risky. So I've turned up the bit rate on the stream. So hopefully now you should be able to get slightly higher quality on the stream. I forget what the exact settings are to get 1080 pixel.
Yeah, YouTube has their table. What?
Wow, bit of a moment coming out of turn 12 as Crew 6 into the pits. Now, this was one of the other this is the driver who was at the very front of all the drivers that did start on those hard tires, and he's come out 9 seconds behind Camille Comon. So 9 seconds at 16 laps, and he is on the medium tires. It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
Right, meanwhile, it's starting to get very close in this battle for 3rd place once again. Lehman did lose a little bit of time behind Kaboom and Wow, trying to get through in the middle sectors. Speaking of Kaboom, just picked himself up his 2nd time penalty of the race. But Mark, very close to Lehman as they head into turn 12, and you could see that he wanted to have a cheeky little look, but won't be able to this time round as Hypers with another fastest lap of the race. He is absolutely flying, 3.2 seconds ahead of Photon. So that 3-second time penalty will no longer cost him the race as things stand. But Mark has a bit of a moment coming out of the final corner, and that will cost him. Too far back to even look for the dive bomb. As it is still Lehman in 3rd ahead of Mark and Nate in 5th, Zones in 6th. And Camille come on outside of that 1 second zone from Zones. As Wow picks up the fastest lap of the race of 1:18.7. So Hypers, he's going to have to push a little bit more if he wants to take the full 26 points.
So basically now everything has ordered itself kind of as it was before. We've now all the pit stops over.
So many drivers are just completely cutting over the curb of turn 7. The Lehman, Zones, and Camille, I believe.
Yeah. That was in the qualifying. I think there was I don't know who it was, but that was a real clean way. Like he was just on the flat curve, not on the higher one, on both of the uh, corners in the chicane.
Okay, however,
That
Mark
looked really good.
Calcifer's just picked up a time penalty as well here. However, it is very, very close, and look at everyone trying to break the slipstream. Mark is going to go down the inside. He will push Lehman out wide. Lehman has a bit of a moment with the back end, and Mark has the DRS heading into turn 2. Lehman so close, but yet so far. Mark finally takes third, and now he can look to stretch out the gap.
Which is now 12.
Oh, Lehman looking down the inside. Oh, Lehman, that is brave, let's say, but Mark doesn't flinch. He holds on to third regardless. Lehman, though, needs to get... Oh! He loses the back end over the curb, and you can just sense, you know, the fire in the eyes from Lehman. Just does not want to lose any time to Mark, and as a result, he loses so much time. 9/10 the gap between the pair of them. Mark just has to find 1/10 in the next 2 corners, and Lehman won't be in DRS range, and Mark will practically be scot-free as Lehman runs wide through turn 12. Into turn 13 we go. Lehman is going to be close enough. He will get DRS, but he is still an entire second down on Mark. All of this once again has allowed Camille Corbon to close right back up in the battle for third place. It's Crew 6 with a 1:18.5. Oh. Camille Corbon loses the back end. Oh, he touches the Armco, but it will not be enough to send him. Oh, as Crew 6 almost runs right into the back of him. We just about caught the aftermath of that. Crew 6 very lucky not to lose his front wing there. I'm not quite sure whose fault that would have been, as Mark picks up a 3-second time penalty. He's trying his best to get this 1 second gap over Lehman, and Lehman, though, having none of it, staying within that 1 second zone. The gap only 0.7 of a second at the present point in time. However, Crew 6 though, he is in 7th place, and he is only 7 seconds down on zones with 13 laps remaining. And I just want to take a look at the lap times from everyone here, because Mark coming into the final corner. So Crew 6 set a fastest time of 1:18.5 last lap. What is Mark doing? It's a 1:19.6, so a second a lap from Crew 6. So he's going to be right on the back of this. Crew 6, he's going to come across the line now. Is a 1:20.0. So if Crew 6 lost 1.5 seconds because of Camille Corbon spinning out of turn 1. Otherwise, he'd be 5.5 seconds down right now. And you have to think that this battle for third place is going to cost them more and more time. And we've been seeing it throughout the race, and this is just going to play right into Crew 6's hands. If he can continue to gain a second a lap, by lap 30, he's going to be within DRS range of zones. Maybe before that, depending on how much these guys fight. And then this all comes down to, you know, how much better can he make those medium tires work than the hard tires, you know, find a way through.
Yeah, but especially Zone's tires are already 11 laps on his car, and he still has now it's still 11 laps to go.
And you know, we saw the likes of you know, Crew 6, all of the drivers who are on the hard tires, they pitted lap 17, lap 18, whereas all the drivers who are on hard tires now, they're gonna have to do about 20 laps, 23. Yeah. So they're going to have to make those hard tires work just that little bit longer here. But here we go. Britain Lehman still close to Mark. Hypers is still leading the race, 4.2 seconds ahead of Photon, and then a whopping 14-second gap to MRL Mark. Zonzo is close. Crew 6, he's brought the gap down to 6.1 seconds. Remember, it was 7 seconds last time around, so he is closing in by almost a second a lap, but you know, just really have that extra bite, you know, that extra life in the tires when he does finally close up, as Camille Common picks up his first second time penalty of the race. Andinator still close to Lehman. The four-way battle for third place will continue. Lehman runs a little bit wide into turn 13 and now into turn 14. Can Andinator get the run? No, once again struggling to get the drive out of the final corner, but Zones has not struggled. He's right on the tail of Andinator. He will look for the inside because Andinator just does not quite close the door. Zones down the inside and will take a 5th place. Andinator, yes, DRS, but so does Zones. Heading into turn 2, there's absolutely nothing Andinator can do. Crew 6, 5.2 seconds behind Andinator, down another 9/10 out of these 4 on that last lap. Oh, Andinator, a bit of a moment with the back end coming through turn 5. Lehman, Zones, Andinator all just jumping, you know, Canadian bunny hopping across turn 7.
Yeah, and especially Hypers and Foden, I think they have possibility to make these hard tires work until the end of the race, because they just need to relax and then need to not make any mistakes, and then they're kind of done. But the other 3-4 behind them are really into battling, and they want to have this third place.
But look at Crew 6. Let's see what lap time that was. A 1:19.01. Taking another 9/10 out of this 4-way battle. Also, Andinator has fallen outside of that 1 second range of Zones, and that's going to be crucial because it will mean that Crew 6 should be able to get past Andinator a little bit easier.
Yep.
Zones has close right up to Tristan Lehman, and there's a yellow flag in sector 1. It's Camille Common, so let's take a look.
He went a little bit wide through turn 3, I think, and then he lost his car on the left side of the track into the barriers.
Kalsafa is really struggling. He's a minute down. He's not having a good race, but he will be picking up a point here after Camille Common's retirement. Actually, is Kalsafa ghosting?
Yeah,
he's in the pits.
What?
I think he's got a broken front wing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and a 5-second penalty as well.
Speeding.
But his race is practically over right now. Hopefully, though, that's not a retirement, because you know he's got that 10th place just ahead of him. Now, Kaboom. Oh, Zones makes a mistake, and Andinator right on his tail. Here we go, into turn 2. Andinator around the outside, but Zones will be able to hold it. There's contact. Andinator runs into the back of Zones on the exit of 2. And look at Crew 6 closing in. He can see them up ahead, and that is going to be all the incentive that he will need. Andinator and Zones, once again, this what was a 5-way battle for third place has once again turned into two-way battles. Mark and Lehman, and then you have Zones and Andinator after Zones. Not quite sure what happened, but he made a big mistake into turn 1, we believe. Don't forget, Wow and Kaboom battling for 8th places. Lehman picks up his first 3-second time penalty of the race. Mark has 2 time penalties though, and Kaboom also picks up his third time penalty. Also, Mark had just got out of the 1 second gap, but not quite soon enough. He only did it out of the final corner, so Lehman still able to just tag along right now, but still a fair bit away. Now, Crucix is 3 seconds down on Andinate, and I think those medium tires are starting to lose their edge here 9 laps into his stint.
Yeah, I think, for example, Endinator is starting to struggle a little bit on the hard tires, because he had a little bit of the moment on the exit of the 14th corner. Maybe the fighting slowly gets noticeable in the performance of the tires.
Right. And that's something else. Oh, as Hypers, who would have thought Hypers had even more time on those hard tires? A 118.3 coming in. Now, when you go across the line, I want to take a look at all of the lap times from 3rd down to 7th as...
And Zones made a mistake in corner 13, and now Endinator's right. Oh, into the last corner, Endinator. Oh!
Andinator has a look, but 19.3 from Lehman, 20.0 from Zones, and it's a 19.1 from Crucix. 2.2 seconds down on Andinator. Oh, as that's Andinator running really wide, I think.
Yeah, he went a little bit late for the braking, and then Zones was in his way.
Now, I think Crucix definitely has the time and the pace to get ahead of Andinator and Zones. But I don't think he has the life nor the laps to catch up to Lehman or Mark.
Yeah, they're too far ahead. They're over 2.5 seconds away from Zones, and the overtaking of those two will take a little bit of time.
I also want to mention, as we're getting closer to that point of the evening where we're going to be having our driver of the day vote. Currently, obviously, you know, Hypers has to be in contention, maybe Photon as well, but Crucix, I think, has had a fantastic race. If we take a look at... Yeah, so he started down in 11th place. He's up into 7th. And I think whether he is fit for driver of the day comes down to whether he can get ahead of Andinator and Zones. Speaking of Andinator and Zones, Andinator right on the back of Zones. Zones goes defensive. Andinator, can he sweep around the outside into turn 1? No, he cannot. Photon picks up a time penalty, and Andinator holds on to 5th place. And now all of a sudden, Crucix is 1.1 seconds down. The battle for 5th place really starting to heat up. Crucix, he has them firmly in his sights now. And surely this time around, as we head into lap 32, Crucix will have DRS. And Nathan Zones, they swap positions so many times. Zones was right on the back of that battle for 3rd place, but mistake saw him drop all the way down. Calcifer picks up his 3rd time penalty. Zones has a bit of a moment, and now Crucix is right on the tail. He's well in the fight. Zones, though, his back end is all over the place, and got to be careful, because if those tires die, Kaboom will be catching up to him as well. But here we go, heading on to a lap number 32. Zones just trying to break that slipstream. But Crucix knows that this isn't his time yet. Not into turn 1. Still has 4 laps remaining. Andinator pulling away from Crucix's Wow and Kaboom. They're side by side into turn 1. And Kaboom will hold on to 8th places. What's going on up ahead? Didn't quite catch that one, Maku.
No, that was Crucix, while Zones had a little bit of a moment, and Crucix was right behind, and Zones got a little bit slower, and they nearly touched.
Right, Crucix has just picked up his 2nd 3-second time penalty. Now, Zones does not have... Zones has 1 time penalty, and Andinator has 1 as well. So, with that, this is a very, very difficult situation for Crucis. Here we go, into turn 12 yet again. Crucix just needs to close. He needs 2-3 tenths closer than he was last lap. But once again, not quite close enough. And I think those medium tires have just lost their edge now.
Yeah.
And this is a bit where I say they've lost their edge, and then Hypers will set a fast lap saying, "Ioware, what's that?"
How do you use that?
Right. Undernator zones and Crucix still battling. Lehman is half a second down on Mark still, but I just don't see any progression there at all. Wow, still very close to Kaboom as Undernator runs a little bit wide in turn 5. The zones, not enough of a mistake to allow zones to get through. So just too far back as Hypers move on to lap 34 of 35. And I'm not going to lie, Maku, I don't really see any changes to order happening, with the exception of this battle for 8th place.
Yeah, that's right. Because zones and Crucix, I don't know if they will change or if zones will again change place with Endinator. But, well, then just 2 laps remaining. Just one time you can go into the first corner, and then on the last lap you just have to do a little drag race until the start and finish line.
Zones so close to Andinator. Has the pace, but does he have a way? Christian Lehman 1 second down on Mark now, and you have to think that is going to be it for Lehman. It's just this battle for 5th and the battle for 8th. Calcifer on the soft tires. He hasn't even been able to pick up the fastest lap of the race. In a dismal day for the current world champion. Andinator almost has a little bit of a moment. Hypers is onto his final lap. We will switch over to him in a second. Zones to the final corner. We go. Andinator switches over to the inside, weaving across the start-finish straight. But look how close Zones is. Andinator goes defensive once again. Zones round the outside. He knows this is his final chance. He'll look for the cutback. He is so close. He has the DRS as well. Looks for the outside heading into turn 2. Crucix watching all of this unfold. Andinator looks up. Now Crucix looking to get the run. Andinator, the two horses side by side into turn 3. But Crucix can't make anything work as Zones moves up into 5th place. Crucix, can he find anything at all in the final couple of corners? Meanwhile, right up at the front, Hypers coming through the final couple of corners. He'll make his way through turn 14. It's been an impeccable race. 35 laps of absolute masterclass. Hypers takes the win. Calcifer sets the fastest lap of the race. Photon will come across the line to take second. Meanwhile, behind Mark, making his way into the final couple of corners. Lehman just behind. But what about the battle for 5th place? No further changes. Mark comes around the final corner to take another ORL podium. Lehman just misses out once again. But he will actually take it after penalties apply. Zones takes 5th. Andinator in 6th ahead of Crucix. As Kaboom and Wow. Oh, Wow has a bit of a moment. And into the wall he goes to pick up 8th place. Actually, Wow jumps ahead of Kaboom after time penalties apply. And, oh, wait, we have to wait for Calcifer as well, as he's making his way into the final couple of corners. Also, there will be a poll coming out onto the chat very shortly, guys. So make sure you vote for who was your driver of the day. Here we go. Calcifer will come across the line. He did eventually get the fastest lap of the race. So he'll be getting 1 extra point, 2 extra points for Toro Rosso, as it's going to be a 2-10 for the Red Bull sister team. With that said and done, let's get a final confirmation then of your race results as Hypers takes the top step after what feels a very long absence, pardon me. Right, so here we go. Hypers takes the win ahead of Photon, Triton Lehman, and Mark, dropping down to 4th after a time penalty. Zones takes 5th ahead of Andinator, Crucix, and WoW, as Kaboom, Calcifer, and Camille, or actually I should just say Kaboom and Calcifer round out the top 10. Everyone else below did DNF. And just to show all of the race incidents, we'll quickly scroll through. A lot of I think everyone who pitted on that first lap, Maku, ended up getting a 5-second time penalty.
Yeah, kind of.
Right. And with that said and done, we're going to be heading into a short break, but don't worry, we will be right back with some driver interviews. So don't forget as well to make sure you vote for your driver of the day on the straw poll that will be coming through on the YouTube chat in just a short minute. Right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are joined by our race winner, Mr. Hypers. It's been a while since Azerbaijan, I believe, but you're finally back on the top step. How does it feel?
Really good. Not just from this league point of view, but overall in many leagues I had a tough last few races. But now I feel like I'm really getting back to my pace, back to the pace I left off with F1 2018. I started to F1 2019, so it's good to see that the pace is back, and to take the win, it's obviously good. My fastest lap was stolen just at the line. But yeah, it was all right. I guess it's good to be back on the top step and closing that gap in the championship, which has become quite close.
Well, I can confirm as the votes for driver of the day are now closed. You did get driver of the day. I think both myself and Maka voted for you. It was a perfect drive. Like no mistakes throughout. You know, you hit top of the time trials of 114 flat or something. I don't even want to know
Yeah.
how that was possible. A 115.1 on medium tires in qualifying. It's just all come together for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, actually that lap in qualifying, I think that was my best quali lap on this game. I can't think of any other lap that was as good as that. In practice I was doing 0.3, 0.4, which is like still quite good, but then to come with a 15.1 in the actual session was really good. And yeah, I definitely think I'm very strong around this track in terms of the one lap pace. In the race I struggled a bit more, but in qualifying and over one lap pace, I think I'm quite good around here.
Right. Moving on to Lehman. You managed to get third place, but for the first half of that race, you had a bit of a train behind you. How much pressure was there, just trying to keep everyone at bay?
No, there was not pressure. I had a trash low down for setup for Hungary. Don't even ask how it was in the race. It was trash, but at least it was good in a straight line. So that was the upside of this situation. But it was good if I had train behind, but it was not good for driving.
So was it just the setup that went wrong, or was there anything else that you could
I-
have maybe changed?
It's hard to say for sure. The pace was not perfect. There is a lot of to change, but I felt like I was gaining time on others in sectors where I should gain time with that setup, and I was losing time when I was supposed to lose the time. But I think I need to work on consistency. I got a penalty this race, which was not ideal. Before I got told that Mark has another penalty, I was basically for like half a lap, because to half a lap I was basically just mad at myself because I knew that I don't have ability to re-overtake Mark, just maybe stick in his DRS. But for sure, next races will be better. And I will have low downforce setup for Spa, not high downforce. No.
Okay. Speaking of Mark, every time I see you on track, every time I speak to you, I always just think, there's always so much bad luck. There's always something that happens, but such a good race from you. You managed to find that move onto Lehman on that second stint. What were the conditions like out there for you?
Well, bad and good at the same time, but race was quite boring. Once the two in front were gone, the race was pretty much over, and P3 was the maximum because you need DRS on this game to stay behind someone, or else it's pretty much over.
When you did manage to get past Lehman, I could see both of you, there was a bit of fire in your eyes, like just try to really hard push, mistakes coming out, and you did end up getting that 3-second time penalty. I also wanted to ask, where did that happen? And Zones was right on your tail at one point, and then he just fell back. So I was just wondering if you saw what happened there.
No, I didn't know what happened there, but yeah, time penalty. I got both of them in turn 4. It's just so difficult. If you just turn in too quick, you cut the inside, and if you turn too less, you cut the outside. So yeah.
Heading into Spa, this is a question for all three of you. How are you feeling for that race?
I mean, Spa is a good race, but I don't know if I can race there because there's another race on this day I have to attend.
Okay. And Hypers?
Like I mean, as a track, it's fun to drive, but in the race, it's probably gonna be a slipstream train. So yeah, it's gonna be
fun.
yeah.
I saw the F1 esports race, so I know what to expect. I think for.
Oh no, that was not even a half of the train. That was not half of the train, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you all very much for joining us. Congrats on taking first, third, and fourth. I hope to see you all at Spa-Francorchamps.
And before we end, like, I cannot wait to see how many cars in one camera shot can we get at the end of camera straight. Basically, about 10 laps into the race.
Don't
I
worry, we got
guess
about six heading
cars
into
at
turn
least.
1. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's gonna be close, but yeah. I want to see like three-way wide going into the chicane. But yeah.
Let's make it 4.
Oh, I'll leave that one to you then. But
Who is up to this, guys? I need sign-ups.
Okay.
right. Thank you guys very much for joining, and best of luck at Spa.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Thank you. Good night.
Well, with that said and done, Maku and myself will be heading back into the commentary booth as oh no. Oh no.
You see it.
Oh wait, it's fine. I haven't given admins a privileges to talk in here. It's only commentators.
Oh,
See, the next level strats
you're
coming in.
genius.
Yeah.
Not really.
Oh no.
Oh, it's
He's-
push to talk. It's push to talk.
Yeah, he identified the push it button.
So, just in case you were wondering, Calspers decided to join our commentary booth because he thinks he's special. But Maku, a fantastic race. Hyper's back onto form. But can we expect to see the same? Do you think?
I think at Spa we can even can expect more. I mean, like Spa is the racetrack, and we've seen all kinds of stuff there. So, and also it's a really long racetrack. So, yeah, maybe we've got more action next time coming.
Well, thank you everyone who has tuned in so far. Don't forget to drop this video a like and head on over to the official ORL YouTube channel. Subscribe there as well. You can also follow ORL on Twitter as well as myself and Maku. If you haven't seen Spa in F1 2019, I suggest you check out the esports race because that was very, very entertaining. Our very own Formula Danny. I say our very own. He races with us. He managed to pick up the win. Hopefully, we'll get to see him again because, in his own words, Spa is his favorite track. Although Hypers and Photon will still be battling for the top spot in the championship. We'll be back next week, 7:30 p.m. GMT, as usual, for the Spa Grand Prix, or the Belgian Grand Prix, I should say. So, until then, stay fast. We'll see you next week. Good night, guys.
Good night.